Alright, so as you can see here beside me, I've got the 500 Rubicon in the workshop. What we're going to do today is change out a couple axles. This machine's running 30-inch Silverbacks on it. They're 9-inch wide front, 11-inch wide rear, which tends to be fairly hard on axles. But what's even more hard on axles is when you rip CV boots and you don't bother to change them out right away. In this case, I ripped the boots on a long trail ride. It was over like a 2-day kind of thing, so they were ripped either the first day or something like that, and we ran them for probably 250k or something like that, and they let in water and dirt and stuff, and it chewed up the CV joint. So there wasn't really a whole lot I could do about it, but it is what it is. I've replaced that side already previously. That case was not due to any kind of contamination. That was a really stupid mud pit that they made that was like 3 feet of peanut butter, and yeah, I exploded that axle immediately. But this side, that was a freak incident. Pretty much that was the only thing that touched the bottom and it broke. But these ones here and the one on the back on the same side, they just tore and it ate up the inside of the bearing. So that one's clicking. This one is completely shot. This tire doesn't drive at all. The CV joints in pieces. All the bearings fell out of it and whatnot. So I went on eBay and I picked up 2 brand new axles. This is the rear, I believe. As you can see, it's a brand new axle. It's made by Interparts. You got your new CV boots, bands, everything. It's just take the old one out, put the new one in, and you're done. So these Interparts axles are a fairly good quality. It's a bit of a compromise. They're not going to be as good as OEM, but it's less expensive. Basically, this entire axle is cheaper than buying one joint from Honda. So that's usually what I go with. On the Rubicon, it doesn't really matter. As long as you keep these boots good and clean and not letting contaminants in, this axle is going to last. Especially if you're not running 30-inch tires like I am here on this one. I'm looking to get rid of these actually and go down to something like a 27 or something like that. This machine doesn't really want to turn these tires in the mud, and if you get them spinning and it grabs something, it just blows parts apart, so that's no good. So this here is the rear, like I said, and this here is the front. So we have 2 axles. They came in at around a little bit less than 200 bucks a piece. And that's Canadian dollars shipped to my door. Interparts doesn't sponsor this site or this channel or anything like that. It's just I buy the cheapest stuff I can find, and this seems to be it. I get these from CV Man, or the CV Man on eBay. So if you're looking for a nice cheap axle, check that out. So the thing with the Honda axles, and this goes for most OEM axles, I know for sure Honda and for sure Suzuki, and I want to say Yamaha, but the rest of them I don't know 100%, but I'm going to assume they're all the same. This axle right here, this is your inboard and this is your outboard. So this outboard is connected onto this shaft, and this here will come off of the shaft, but this side won't. So what happens is, so if you break this outboard joint, you have to buy the entire half shaft. You can buy it without this joint on the end. So it'll just be this joint and this shaft bare on this end, and you put your factory joint that isn't broken back on it. You have to buy a boot kit or a clamp kit or whatever and clamp it on. It's kind of a bit of a hassle, and there's no real point to it because you're not saving a whole lot of money versus just buying a complete axle like this. The other thing is to be aware of, if you rip a boot And if you rip this boot, you can just pull this apart, put the new boot on, put it back together, and it's done. You don't have to touch this at all. But if you rip this boot, then what you got to do is you got to pull this one off, and then you got to take this boot off, slide it down the shaft, and then slide the new one back on. So if you rip that boot, the outside boot, make sure you get 2 boot kits, or you get at least the boot kit and the 2 clamps. And what I've found is if you buy the universal aftermarket boot kits, the dealers don't sell the bands, so you end up having to buy the 2 boot kits, and you end up throwing a boot away or whatever. It's really stupid the way they do it, but if you look online, you can find places that sell just the bands. Actually, that place I mentioned that sells these axles sells the bands and the tools and everything else, so that's a really handy thing to have. But I'll do another video some other time, hopefully not anytime soon, on doing a CV boot, because I don't think there's a whole lot of videos on YouTube of doing them on ATVs. So, but for the most part, getting the axle out is the same. It's what happens after that that might be a little bit different. So if you're buying a new ATV and you're worried about the CV joints and CV boots and stuff and having problems with them, the thing is with all these independent suspension bikes like this one, which has independent suspension in the rear, you'll notice that there's an extra set of CV axles in it, which is why we have to replace one. But the solid axle machines will have a solid axle on it, which means there's no boots or there's no CV joints or anything like that in the rear. So it's much more robust setup, but the ride quality, the ground clearance, the handling, etc. suffers for that. So something to be aware of. If you're running a bush machine for work or something like that, maybe solid axle might be something you might want to look into. Personally, I think the benefits of independent rear suspension are worth it compared to running solid axle, but that's just me. Everybody has their personal preference. So what we're going to do now is we're going to pull apart this front end on this side and change out that axle. And I'll show you some shortcuts to do that, because a lot of people I've seen have taken the whole thing apart, and you don't need to do that. This is an easy process, won't take any more than 20 minutes maybe. Alright, I got you guys set up on a half decent angle. The first thing that we're going to do is we are going to remove this nut here on the end. I got the camera set up over on that side. It's just kind of more convenient for me while I'm working on it, but you can't see everything I'm doing. This nut here, I'm pretty sure it's 20, it's either 27 or 30 mil. I'll tell you for sure in a minute. I'm just going to scrape off the mud with a wire brush, hold the cotter pin, and take that off pretty quick here. Just want to show you guys the issue there that I had. If you'll notice, this was spinning freely. Well, the problem is, even if I put it in 4-wheel drive with the brakes on, because this axle is completely broke, there's no way that that differential is going to hold this hub from spinning, so I got to hold this brake on. And I can't hold that brake on because this is the rear brake. So what I had to do, since I'm here alone, was squeeze this brake handle and put a couple wraps of tape to hold it closed. So now I should be able to twist that off. And I don't have a strong arm here with me, so I got that 1/2-inch ratchet, and I put that that big adjustable on it. I wouldn't actually recommend doing that, but alright, she's on there pretty good. We'll save the nut, but we'll throw away that cotter pin. We won't need that anymore. Alright, so here's what we like to do now. I have that nut off. What we're going to do is we're going to pull off this shock just on the bottom. Just this bolt here, it's going to be 14 millimeter. And we're going to pull off the bottom, probably. We're going to pull off the bottom 2 bolts that hold the bottom A-arm on, and then we should be able to move this up out of the way like that and pull that axle out of the diff there. So I'll just get going on that. Alright, so now we've got those two A-arm bolts removed, and this shock is removed and moved up out of the way here. We can grab hold of the end of this hub here, slide that out like that, lift this up, grab a hold of our axle, yank her out, and in this case we'll have to tap out the other end. So there is the what's left of our CV joint. There's the axle here. So to put it back together, it's pretty much just a reverse of taking it apart. We'll take our new axle, shove it in there, make sure it engages with the splines. Take a soft hammer, rubber mallet or whatever, and smash her in on the end here. You don't want to screw up those threads. So now that's in the diff, we just pull this back up like so until we can get this in. Be careful not to mess up your bearing or your seals. There we go. So I'll just tighten up those bolts and whatnot, and tighten up this nut at the end, and we're good to go. Alright, so as you can see, I just finished putting that tire on. I just put those lug nuts on loose or whatever. We'll tighten them up now that the bike's on the ground. But that's the front done. I'll see if I can't put in exactly how long it took to do it. I wasn't really timing myself, but I'll look through the footage and see start to finish how long it actually took. We got to move on to the back now, so I'll just move the bike ahead a little bit and we'll get to that one. The process is going to be basically identical. If I run into anything different, I'll add that in as a clip at the end of this video. But if not, thanks for watching. Please comment, rate, and subscribe. Alright, like I said, I would add to the video if there's anything different about the back. So as always, hindsight is 20/20. I did the two bottom air mounts again so I can pull out the bottom of it, but what I should have did was undo the top, because as you can see on the Rubicon there's only one bolt that holds the top in, and I could do the same thing that way, but I didn't do that, so whatever. The problem is with doing the rear, is you have to undo this. You have to undo that sway bar mount. So it's just one extra thing, and plus you got the 2 instead of the 1, so it's actually like 2 extra things. But I just thought I'd add that. Have to clean out some of that mud there. It's pretty dirty, but anyway, just wanted to add that. Oh yeah, that's not grease around the diff. That's just penetrating oil I put around there. Hopefully this axle comes out easy. The thing that I haven't mentioned about the rear end on the Rubicon is that unlike the front end, those axle splines aren't oil bathed, which means they don't ride in oil all the time like the fronts. Doesn't seem like a big deal, but when you start trying to yank on those axles, if they're rusted and seized into that differential, good luck getting them out. So that's just something to be aware of. You can get them out, but it might be very difficult. That's why I sprayed that penetrating oil in there. Hopefully it works its way down onto the splines and makes it a little bit easier to pull out. But this is a fairly new machine. It's a 2015. It's got about 1700 kilometers on it, so I'm hoping that it's fine. But when I go to put that new axle in, I'm going to coat that axle splines, those axle splines in Everseas, so hopefully that'll help it from rusting in the future. Well, I managed to get that rear axle out, and just as predicted, it was a gigantic pain in the ass. I tried just pulling it like normal, like I did the fronts, would not come. I ended up tying a rope onto the axle, this rope actually to be specific, and a maul on the other end, this maul, which is probably, I don't know, 14, 16 pounds. And I had to take a good swing at it. It took quite a bit even then to knock it out of there, so that sucks. But what are you going to do? So I got to get some Everseas and coat the shit out of that new axle before I shove it in there. Well, you can't win them all. There has to be some kind of casualty when you rip an axle out like that, and this is it. This is my diff seal from that side. But there's not really any other way to get that out of there, so I'm not too worried about it. I don't have a slide hammer, that would work, but whatever. So I'll have to run into the Honda dealer tomorrow so they can tell me they don't have one in stock, and then wait a week or so to get a new one, and then we can put this piece of shit back together. But other than that, we're ready to go. I got that axle here somewhere. I don't know where I threw it. Oh, here it is. Coated it up there with Everseas. So once I get that seal back in, and we'll throw the axle in and put it back together, and we're good to go. So yeah, until next time, thanks for watching. Please comment, rate, and subscribe.